Right, so let's get started. I am not going to give you any class or anything like that. It's basically a Q&A sessions on what you all have problems with in terms of IDP and what do you want me to help you with, you see? Yeah. Anyone wants to ask any question? Like I said, it's just going to be 1 hour. I'm not going to do more than 1 hour on this, okay?
Hello, Doctor.
Yes, Kristalina.
Okay. I want to ask this question.
Sure.
Okay. Do we have to separate the WBS for the building of residential and shop lots, or just combine them together in one?
I have no preference, honestly. I would say that if a schedule is being produced, I do prefer it to be in one schedule. Because if you split up into two schedules, it's a bit hard to actually see overall project completion later, unless your project shop lot is completely after or you do your project shop lot first. Normally, it's you do your project shop lot first and then your project, your residential area. I mean, it depends on some developer and also the authority. Authority may require you to build the shop lot first, and they will prefer you to build the shop lot first before you build the residential area. But most developer will prefer you to build the residential area first before you build the shop lots, because with the residents that is staying in the area, then they can actually boost the economy of the shop lot. Yeah. Yeah. So your questions about whether you should do two different schedule, unless your shop lot and your residential areas are completely different time of construction, like a phase 1 and phase 2. When one finish, the other one start, then yes, you can. But if it's all going on at the same time, are you talking about WBS or are you talking about schedule? Sorry, the question.
Together actually, WBS and the schedule.
Okay, WBS, yes, you can have a separate WBS, but schedule, you must do it together if your construction work is going to happen at the same time.
Oh, okay. Okay, understood, Doctor. Okay, thank you.
Because your schedule for the project needs to be start to the finish, one dot to the other dot. That one will be your project period. So if your schedule, if the construction work for your shop lot and your housing area residential is going to be happening at the same time, or almost the same time, then yes, they have to be in the same schedule for you to pull that line of start to finish, you see. But like I say, if your shop lot is phase 1, your residential is phase 2, and then there will be completely different time, then you can have two schedule. Okay?
Okay, Doctor. Thank you.
No problem. Normally, approval will be given together at the same time, and developer would usually prefer to do the residential area first. Definitely. Then it's going to be easier to sell the shop after the build, because you've got a bunch of people who are staying in the area who will use the facilities in the shop lot. So the shop lot owners tend to be able to rent and to sell the property a lot easier if there is already some existing customer who are actually staying nearby. So when you see a lot of actually it is Sarawak Planning Authorities requirement that for certain size of development along the roadside, it will all be shop lots. That is how our state planning authority actually form the suburban residential area, meaning that the people staying behind the shop lots, will come to the shop lot and do their shopping and do their some of the daily makan minum, their daily life styles. Yeah. So that's the purpose of having shop lot, some shop lots in front of most of the residential houses. Yeah. If you can see, you drive along Samarahan, the first thing you see is shop lot, and then all the residential will be behind. So developer will prefer that, but like I said, state planning authority may require you to build the shop lot first, but not necessarily all the time. It's still based on the planning. The approval will be given at the same time, and then they will ask you to, unless that development is so big that they will ask you to build the shop lot first and then do the residential. Otherwise, normally if it's one development, they will just approve it all at one go, and then it's up to the planning of the developer. Yeah. Okay. This is for your knowledge, Okay. Anyone else? Next question. Next question. If no question, we'll be finishing, You all are the one who messaged me and say you want a mentor-mentee class on IDP. So I'm doing a mentor-mentee class. So I need some questions, If you have no question for me, anybody who wants to show me your work or anything like that, you can share screen. We can take a look as well, you see. This, demolishing. Okay, there's a question here that their site requires house demolition because there's already existing house there. So you need to demolish it first, because I believe that to have a house there, there's already some access road and all that. I don't really see the clear picture of how your land will look like actually. I mean, like your project actually looks like, because if there is no access road, then you probably have to do some land clearing first. But normally you will do the demolition, you move out the people, do the demolition work, and then do the site clearing, land clearing all at the same time. Okay, it's very highly dependent on what sort of access you have. Whether the access ada dapat masuk big lorry kah, dapat masuk big excavator kah. Kalau dapat, then you do your house demolition first before you do the other parts punya land clearing. But if let's say the house is like a small kampong road that you cannot masuk big machinery, then you have to do the land clearing all the way sampai the rumah and then take it out. Again, it depends on the condition. I cannot answer you fully on that because I don't see the condition of your site, okay? But it can be both way. It can be both way, depending on access of machineries. Is that clear, Gabriel? There is an access road, water reticulation network, electrical power line, fishing pond. Or then you probably have to start doing Is it very far into the site from the main road? Berapa jauh? Oh, then you have to start clearing land first. The external one, you need to start clearing in like that. Sampai you sampai that house, yeah. Because your access road is too small. If it's really small, then it's very hard for the big lorries to actually go in and pick up all the debris of the demolition. Yeah, especially that access road, I believe is not a proper road, right? Mungkin like access batu bata macam tu kan. If it's a muddy and also stone, like gravel kind of access road, then you really need to clear the land, create the access road all the way in before you sampai the house. Because 3 km inside, right, you need to take out a lot of things. You see, after you do demolition work, you need to take out a lot of this rubbish and debris and, bits and pieces like that. That one will take a lot of heavy equipment, heavy machineries to go in and out. If your access road cannot like masuk big equipment, especially the one that will actually get stuck in rainy days, the wheel and all that, yeah, then you cannot do the demolition first. You have to properly do the access road, site clearing, access road and all that before you can reach the house and do the demolition work, okay? Depends. I mean, like I said, I don't get a full picture, so you have to access it properly. Okay, regarding level 1 in WBS. Okay, this question I've already answered. In the previous lecture. Okay, because in Dr. Lee's example, level 1 is construction of bus station. Okay. I think you didn't go and read or listen to my recording in the previous lecture or the actual recording of the lecture or face-to-face lecture. Okay, I don't like that, because you guys don't listen properly before you ask questions. Okay. Dr. Lee's example is a very simple bus transit station. Okay. So when you have very simple project, like for example, bus stop, okay. For example, say simple drain construction, okay, like just 1 or 2 km of pipeline, for example. These are very simple construction work, okay. Very limited activities. When you have very limited activities and very simple construction work, you can put your title as level 1, but we don't count that as level 1. We count that as just the title for the project. Normally, level 1, Dr. Lee's example is because her example is very simple. So she put level 1 as construction of bus station. But normally with engineering work, most of us are dealing with very complicated, different components and a lot of different sections to deal with. Then your level 1 has to be starting to be as detailed as possible. Okay, so you can have geotech, structure, archi work, or building works. We don't call it archi work, we call it building works, for example. As level 1, yes, you can. You should actually. That would be, in fact, in some project, we will even prefer you to go in level 1 to have even more detail already. So it depends on the activities of the project. If your activities of the project requires many layers and also it's very complicated, many work, then you have to start your level 1 as detailed as possible, okay? But level 1 are usually what we call the general overall picture of the project, okay? That is how we define level 1. Okay, you have to understand that in project management, it's not so much on formula, you know, like it must be like this, you know, kind of thing, you know. I mean, yes, there are a lot of things that are very formula. For example, production rate. For example, what you call that? The network calculation, forward pass, backward pass. Those are very formula, very systematic. Okay, but a lot of things in project management are about procedures. Okay, it's about procedures. It's about step 1, you do what, step 2, you do what, step 3, you do what. And all these procedures, they are subjected to certain level of changes, because you have to understand different site have different site has different elements, you know, different characteristic. Like you all have IDP, you have, you know, 20 groups. If you pick different project, all of them will be different. And different designer will do different things also. Different people you work with will react differently also. So a lot of times, in terms of project, a good project manager is not a designer. It's not a designer that follow A to Z without any mistake. Okay, a good project manager is a good designer. He understands design. He understands what are the critical things. But a lot of decision making are very flexible, and you have to only base it on one thing. What is for the good of the project? What is good for the time? What is good for the cost? What is good for the quality of the project? And then you make decision based on what is the best for the project. So there is no such thing as, you see the answer that I gave you a lot of times are, it can be like this, it also can be like that, it also can be this way. As long as the basic principle that you hold on to is for the good, for the best of the project, so that you pay the minimum, so that you finish the fastest, so that you have a very good quality work, then most decision that you make is actually the procedures. You want to terbalik it a little bit here and there is okay. All right. So for Kristalina questions just now, Dr. Lee's example is because she has a simple example. Okay. So actually you should be looking at her layer 2 onwards. If you want to make her layer 2, layer 1 is fine as well. Okay. And she has up to 4 layers. Normally, the main thing only occurs in 3 layers. So even though her layer 1, okay, or if for me, I wouldn't put that as layer 1. I will put it as level A, for example. And then your layer 1 will be the actual activity. So work breakdown structure, level 1 always have to be based on actual activities of the project. Do not base it on the project title unless your project title is unless your project is very simple. Very simple. Okay. Otherwise, it's confusing. Yes, I agree. Okay. I will talk to her about this as well for her example next time, to change her layer 1 to just phase 1 or something like that. Maybe for her project, okay, I can only take a guess. For a project, actually, it's a very big bus station, okay, with shopping mall, with, you know, the station itself, with the arrival hall, with the departure hall. So there's many components. So that's why her level 1 is just that station itself, okay. So for her, she would probably have layer 1 station, layer 2 departure hall, layer 1 in terms of station, departure hall, arrival hall, shopping mall. You know, she may have a few items inside there, okay, in level 1. So she's only capturing that to show you in her example. Okay, so I hope that answer your question. But if you don't have that, if you don't have phase 1, phase 2, for example, shop lot and residential, or terrace, residential detached, residential semi-D, residential park, for example, if you don't have that, then your level 1 should straight away go to the activity itself, like drainage, structure, you know, structure for detached, structure for terrace, structure for shop lot, for example. Structure, you can split up your structure into more layer 1, because normally we have terrace, also we have semi-D. And sometimes we have shop lot also, or we have shop lot and terrace, for example, or shop lot and semi-D, for example. So your structural work can be more level 1. Okay, so I hope this also answered the question, because if anyone want to ask me the third time the same kind of question, I wouldn't answer, okay? All right, so I'll ask them to listen to this recording. Are we clear, Kristalina and the rest, about this leveling, the layer and leveling?
Very clear, Doctor.
Okay. All right, so there's from Sharifa. Can't have problem with Alvin as there's 2 small shop lot in front of my site. There is going to be compensation cost, right? You have 2 small lot in front of your lot. Whose lot are they? Are they your lot or other people's lot? Sharifa?
Others people lot, Doctor.
Are you passing through their lots?
Yeah,
Why are you passing through their lots?
because the access road is in front.
Okay. That one, you cannot compensate them straight away, okay? There is no such thing, because different land, you work on your own land. So unless JKR or council, your access road will definitely pass through their land, okay? But your final road should be the road reserved by the government. If the government actually need their lot to give up some part of their land for the access road, then it's between them and the government. And we call it way leave, meaning that you need to apply to the relevant government agency for way leave, meaning that to pass through that land, to pass through or use that access road, okay? So that way leave, it has to be agreement between the government agency and the owner of those shop lots. Because you see, all this infrastructure work to go to your land will be already been given up, okay, as part of the state or government land. State land or federal land, which we call government land. And this government land is supposed to be used for road. It's supposed to be used for drainage, okay? So these 2 lots in front of your lot, okay? 2 lots in front of your lot, they have to give up certain part of their land, okay? And because you are the inner lot, you are building that road first. In fact, they save up money already. So why should you be giving them compensation? So there's no such thing as compensation unless your drain or your whatever, you actually use their land, you actually makan into their land, you actually take up a space in their land, or there's no choice here at all that some of the drain have to flow into their areas, then maybe we need to talk about compensation. But even if the design, we will not go into other people's land. It's their border, it's their thing, you know, so you don't design cutting across their land. So we don't want compensation issue, no way, unless this is native land, unless this is land, you know, NCR, you know, those land in the kampong, those need compensation. You potong their petek, you know, you potong their plantation, those sort of things. You're actually offensively going into other people's land. Are you doing that, offensively going into other people's land, Sharifa?
No, doctor.
No, right? You're just like passing that. You need to build an access road, right?
Yeah.
And that access road, basically, it should be part and parcel of the normal government land that you are using. And when you build the final access road into your land, these two lots in front, they're already benefited because you already built it for them. The pipeline also they benefit already, you know.
Okay.
Drain also they benefit already. So later on, they just have to build up and sambong to what you built, you see. So they save out a lot of money already. They should be very happy, actually. Especially the second lot. Whoever built first always is the losing one. You have to pay more.
Okay, doctor. Thank you.
Okay? But there's no compensation needed unless, like I say, you're going into their land, you're taking out like there's a house there that you want them to move away, that you pay them. Like Alvin's case, maybe there is a landowner there that they are. I assume Alvin's case that you had to buy that house, you know, because you are building that on that land, you see. So that one is a compensation, definitely. Okay, because that land comes with the house, you see. So when you buy together, you know, you buy the land and the house together. So it belongs to you now, you can demolish it. Or there is some plantation, fishing pond, whatever. Those are because you buy that land already, then you demolish it. Then you have to compensate. But if you don't offensively go into other people's land without paying for the land itself, then obviously these are not your land. If this is not your land, you don't design and cut across their land offensively. No way, okay? If you do cut across them offensively, then you talk about compensation, okay? And the other reason for compensation is NCR, native land. And if your project don't involve native land, then that is not an issue. For normal development in Kuching area, in Bandaraya area, there is no such thing as native land already. Native land also, when you want to do development, they will be converted to mixed zone already. It's already been fully converted. Otherwise, you cannot build one. All right, these are some of the legality with land. You have to learn that to slowly understand. Okay. So Sharifa, are you clear on that? Okay, so I'm not sure about your situation now, but if you're not, this piece of two land doesn't belong to you and your design doesn't cut through their land or use any part of their land, then there's no compensation needed. If only the access road, you need to apply for way leave. Just apply for to use that to use before you hand over to the. I mean, because that road belongs to that pipeline, that road, that drain belongs to some authority agency like SESCO, like JKR, like councils, then you need to apply for way leave, okay?
Okay, doctor, thank you.
Okay. Okay, in Excel file entitled resources allocation that you share, there's a difference between major, minor. Okay, again, this question I've already answered Richard that day in the class, okay? I don't know where you are answering, and I don't know if you have listened to my recording at all, but I am quite tired of answering the same thing again and again, okay? In my class, I've already answered you all that major, minor machinery is an example of how you can split up your machinery. So under major machinery, there can be concrete batching plant, there can be barges, They can be very big machineries that you lump under major machinery. So that machinery column, you can split up into names of machineries. The minor machinery can be excavator, can be loaders, can be trucks. Those are, I won't call that minor machinery. Yeah, those are minor machinery. Okay, we call it minor machineries, okay? And then equipment are the one that you can load up onto the truck and move around, like generators, like the small concrete batching plant. Those are, the small concrete batching plant is also minor machinery. Equipment are the one that you really can load up at the back of the car, like your chainsaw, like your generator, like your pipe joining machines, you know. So in that item, machineries, major, minor machineries, equipment, tools and machineries, all these I already explained in the lecture notes. You have to read the lecture notes, you know. And then I also already explained in the class recording. All right. So here I repeat again. So again, major machineries are the one that you really build up on site, like batching plants or barges, you know, like, or tower crane. They cannot be moved at all. Minor machinery can move around on their own. Those are minor machineries like excavators, trucks, like loaders, backhoe. Those are all machineries, or we call it minor machineries. Equipments are the one that you can load up at the back of the truck and move around on your site. It depends on something else to move around. Okay, and mobile crane are under machineries. Okay, major machineries is really stuck there. They cannot move at all. Okay, so those are the difference. So if you want to include, of course, you need to include that in your PM assignments. Of course, you need to include that in your PM assignments, or otherwise, how are you going to do your PM assignment? IDP report, at this stage here, you probably need it in final report, not in your prelim. Prelim, you list down what are the machineries, but you don't really have to go into details. Prelim report and also conceptual report, you don't need to be so detailed as in what you do with the work breakdown and your resources allocation, how many machineries in which activities and all that. You don't do that in IDP 1. You do that in IDP 2. Okay? And the basic thing is, in the resources allocation, you need to be as detailed as possible. So if you don't want to use the word major, minor machineries, it's also fine. You just list down your work breakdown in the column, and the row on top, you list down all the machineries name that you need. In fact, you need to list down all the machineries name that you need. And this major, minor equipment category is just for you to guide you to see what are the ones that you need as a major, what are the ones that you see as a minor, and what are the ones that you see as equipment. So you have a guideline of how you slot your machineries. Okay? I prefer to do that so that I don't miss out on any of the machineries, or I don't mix out my machineries. You see? Like, I remember backhoe, I put backhoe. I remember tower crane, I put tower crane. Then later on, my whole chart is very messy. You see, very, very messy. I don't like that. So I prefer to categorize them properly. Like labor, I categorize them into skilled laborers, semi-skilled laborers, and general workers, for example. I prefer it that way because skilled laborers has a lot of different people, like main layer, semi-skilled are carpenter, bar benders, you know, and steel fabricators. They are all considered as skilled laborers, you know, and closer to supervisory levels, they're all skilled laborers. The one that hands-on, they are the one that have license and all that. Electricians are electrician, plumbers, they are all skilled laborers, okay? The one that have to go for exams and get a certificate and all that, those are all skilled laborers, okay? So those, I prefer it that way, so that there's less mixed up in terms of your list, in terms of your list in that way. Okay. Okay, so Asrin, do you hear me or not?
Yes, Doctor. Thank you.
Okay, so you understand now. So if you do not want to put those major, minor, also okay. But as long as you must put your machinery's name. All right. So I suggest you put major. After major, what are the machinery? Like you put like first row, you put major, minor equipment, and then second row, you put under major, you put, like you break it down now. Like major, you got like what concrete batching plant, tower crane, like you put there like that under the major, and then minor, you got the second layer, and then equipment first layer, and then you got a second layer like that. Then that one is very, very clear. Okay, so try to do that. I prefer that way. Okay. Okay. The question from No Shara. Okay. Yes, I've explained this many, many times. So if you don't know the production rate, how are you going to know? If you don't know the production rate and the quantity, how are you going to calculate your time? You can't. Okay, so I think that is the answer. So your productivity rate of machineries and labor is the main thing. Material, unless you are producing some of the material on site, otherwise you don't really need to know the productivity rate. But materials, very important, you need to know the quantity. Without the quantity, you cannot calculate the machinery. You cannot use production rate. Production is actually quantity over time. So you want to know the time, you need to know the quantity, you need to know the production rate or the productivity rate of the machineries and labor. And you need to know all of them because you need to know which one is the one that will govern the final production, the final time. So if your labor is lower than your machineries, then of course labor will be the one that will govern that particular duration. Because some of the job is machinery, some of the job is labor, especially very specialist work. It could be labor that will lead in terms of the that will lead the duration in terms of the calculation, not machineries. But you need to have all of them available. Otherwise, you don't know who is lower. Okay, so materials mainly you focus on quantity. Unless you do the concrete batching on site, then you need to know the production rate of the concrete batching. Do I answer your question, no, Shara?
Yes, doctor. Thank you, doctor.
You understand, huh? Truly understand, huh?
Oh, yes, totally understand.
So, can you repeat to me what you need to do?
I need to know the production rate for the machineries and labor, and then we need to know which one is the lowest, and then we need to compare it. And then for the materials, I need to focus more on the quantity, and from the quantity, I will know about the machineries needed.
The material, you need to know the quantity because the production rate has that very important thing called quantity,
Oh, yeah.
Do you know your production rate or not? Do you know the simple calculation of production rate or not?
Yes, quantity over time.
So you need the quantity because you need to know the quantity of the material because you need that for the calculation, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So that is the answer. Don't say because you need to know the material quantity because of the machineries. Why? Of course, you need to know the materials, and then depending on the quantity. I mean, you don't need to know the quantity of the material to know the machinery. I don't like the answer because that is wrong.
Okay.
You don't need to know the quantity of the material to know what machineries to use, you see? Right?
Yes.
Obviously, the quantity is a measurement of the amount of work, okay? Amount of work that is needed. So amount of work is the one that will determine what sort of machineries. Sometimes if the amount of work is a lot, you can use 2, 3, 4, 5 small machines, or you can use 2 big machines, you see. So amount of work, the quantum of the work will help you decide on what machine to use. That is right. There is nothing wrong with that, okay? But the way that you put it, you have to be very clear here, because you must understand it properly. Material quantity is mainly used for the calculation of the productivity rate, so that you can know the time. So production rate P over Q over T, P is equal to Q over T, so T is Q over P. Yeah? So if you don't know your Q and you know your P, then how you calculate your T? Isn't it?
Yes.
Right? So you don't mix up. You don't need to know the quantity, like as in how many meter cube and all that. Okay? To know which machinery to use. Generally, when we look at the overall project, we already know what type of machinery we need, okay? Because you already more or less have the amount of job, how big the job is. All right, so of course, time is also another factor. So let's say you have this big machine on site, like let's say you want to bring in 1 tower crane, okay? And that tower crane will do all the job. So then your time will be your time will be controlled by that machine, you see? Of course, there are certain situations where the machine is controlled by time. So if I'm in urgent need to finish the road or to finish the concreting, I may bring in more machines, you see? So the situation is not definite in that sense. It's not definite that says that, oh, I must have this and then I have this. So it can be the ballet also. Yeah?
Okay.
So, but to put it very simply for the assignment, his production is P equal to quantity Q over time duration, okay, T. So you work on that formula. So machinery's production rate and labor production rate, you must know. Material quantity, you must know, so that you can calculate your T, okay?
Okay. Okay, doctor.
All right, so Sharifa, so what other people's lot now? Okay, right, okay, so I answered that question already. Do I have to calculate the cost for site utilization as well? Well, site utilization is basically using your own site, okay? But site utilization include building workers' quarters, include building access road, include building site office. So yes, you have to calculate some cost for site utilization. Okay? And those are the costs. You have to bring in temporary water meter, you have to bring in temporary sanitation, you may have to do some groundwork for you to put some of the equipment so that it doesn't sink, you know? So those are all site utilization costs. But if you ask me about site utilization, as in you're using other people's land, then yes, you have to rent that land from your neighbor, and then you have to put your machineries there and all that. Other one is land, you have to rental you have to pay rental normally . Okay. So site utilization, normally the cost is we will put it together with under the category of general and preliminaries . Part of it is site utilization . Because the site is already being possessed by you already, by the contractor. So that cost is already there. It has to be there. Are we clear? Karanisa, this is a discussion, okay? So if you have any problem,
No, doctor.
okay, and any other question? Okay. Okay, answering also, just to be clear, since we're making housing and shop houses available, so for Gancha, to okay, Ashwin, yes, I think just now I already say that it's better for you to put structure, shop lot, structure, residential. In fact, structural work, you have to be clearer, okay? Structure residential, structure shop lot, structure residential terrace, structure residential semi-D if you have semi-D. Okay, anything else? So, okay, if there's nothing else, I will just make a final conclusion. For your IDP 1, we basically expect you to hand in terms of project management, especially in terms of conceptual report. I do expect a calculation on like a order of magnitude, meaning based on capacities. So you need to say, okay, your site is how many houses. Then you take historical data from other site, their construction costs. This is talking about construction costs, development costs, construction and development costs, meaning the land cost plus the construction costs, all together, how much was spent, okay? And then you project it onto your like if let's say theirs is 20 million to do 50 houses, and then yours is 60 houses, okay? So then you take the historical data. If you only use one site, obviously the data is not very average lah. Kalau if you take more site or 5 sites like that, that is more detailed. Then you can take the average and then take it to project it to your 60 houses, for example. If you are more hardworking, then you also split up into terrace houses and semi-D and short lot, okay? So that one is expected from your the cost bit for conceptual report, okay? The time, basically, you just have to do a very simple work breakdown, like what kind of work would there be, and then give an expected completion for each of the work, and then give me the final conceptual, is like the final duration for the project, okay? So that is conceptual report. For prelim, because you've already done some of the major activities punya calculation, you already know where is the layout of your drain, where is the layout of your pipe, where is the layout. It's just layout, no calculation yet. So in prelim, the structure, you already have some key plans that you know. You already can calculate like how many beams and columns and all that. So normally we will use what we call, the other day I asked you to do all up rate also can. All up rate meaning that you can break it down into structural work, you know, beam, column, and all that, and then you give a final big rate as in the rate itself include of material, labor, machineries, like one rate, like that. So in your report, you need to put down what is the expected usage of machines, what are the expected usage of laborer, you know, expected usage only, not yet fully calculate, okay? So you do all the calculation, all the calculation in your final design, okay? And then in your timeline also, you need to list down like the work breakdown, okay? And then the duration, I also don't need to use production rate or anything like that. It's just basically to put expected finishing time. Because prelim report, we haven't finished calculating the whole item. So we do not know exactly. We also haven't really fully planned for the resources. Resources planning, leveling, loading, all these sort of things are done in final design report, and then your resources allocation into different components of the work. They are all in final design report. Okay. So prelim, I repeat, you just have to do all the layout of all the major component of the work, and then from there you can have a work breakdown that is maybe 2 layers, 1 or 2 layers. Most likely it's about 2 layers, and then from there, the 2 layers, you put in what we call an all-up rate. All-up rate is basically a rate that already expected the machineries, the material, everything in one rate, okay? And then you do just the multiplication, that's all. But you need to list down the resources that you're expected to use as well. List down only. No allocation yet. Are we clear on this?
Yes.
The-
Yes?
what do you mean by the upgrade? I very clear on that.
All upgrade, go back to the notes, go back to my recording, go through it. Is there the answer? Okay. All up rate is basically a rate that is inclusive of labor, machineries, like for example, concreting. It will be machine, how many, in meter cube, how many meter cube? 1 meter cube is how much? 1 meter cube is 500 ringgit. 500 ringgit is what? 250 concrete, 50 ringgit labor, 150 ringgit machineries, and others, for example. So the rate is already calculated to have everything inside there. Gantt chart we have to produce at prelim. We also have to produce at final. The final will be the one that is very detailed. The Gantt chart for the prelim one is basically whatever you've done, whatever you have done for your work breakdown, like maybe layer 1 and layer 2 only. Normally, because why we use O up rate? O up rate is a rate that is an estimation. So estimated inside there, you already have your machineries, your labor, your supervision, your wastage, everything. But it's a very big rate, okay? Because why do we need that? This is when by the design is not completed. When the design is completed, we can go for detailed design, and then you can allocate the machineries, you can allocate all your resources, and then you can do your production rate. You can have your time. From your time, you can have your calculation on your proper, you know, you can calculate the whole thing, you see. But in terms of prelim, the project is not fully confirmed yet, So you're only showing the client some of the concept, like road work, where the road will run, where the drain will run, where the pipeline will run, how does the houses key plan looks like, ground floor, first floor, second floor, the structure, how they will look like, it's an estimation. Okay, so with this estimation, it's very difficult for us to allocate resources. You don't do that. If you allocate resources and then the project is not finalized and then it's being KIV, you're going to waste a lot of time. So normally in consultancy, in terms of preliminary work, we will just use what we call a parametric estimates or an O-up rate. Okay. Parametric estimates also I explained in recording, last week recording, I think it's recording 2 or 3, okay? And O-up rate is under what we call definitive estimates. I explained that in recording 3, I think, or 4, okay? The notes are all in ellipse already. So you all should not be asking me questions unless you don't understand the notes. Then you ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer you. But you're asking me questions that is already the answer is there in the notes. And it's not about that you have read the notes. Have you read the notes and have you actually listened to the recording? Can I have a show of hands who has actually listened to week 7 recording? Okay, so that is that all? So parametric estimate, sometimes we use that for prelim design because you already know the components of work, like your structure, by doing your layout, you already roughly know an estimated quantity. For example, for waterworks, once you lay out your site with the pipeline, you already know the quantity of the pipeline. For example, is it 2 km total or is it 5 km total? So with that 5 km total and 3 km total, you can get a past project that is similar, and then you can project that into with your quantity, okay? And then you combine that with drainage work, which you also get past project, but you already know the quantity, like for example, structural work, you already know total how many meter cube of concrete that you'll be using. So then you compare that with the past project structural work amount, okay, their amount of quantity and their construction costs, okay, then you can project that into with your own quantity. So that's how we do parametric estimates, okay? So if you all still don't understand parametric estimates and also all up rate and all that, go and do the recording first. And then when we come back in week 8, you can raise up your hands again and you can ask me again in more detail, okay? Because this is not a project management class. If we're doing project management, and most people, there's only 20 people here. So if I do a project management class with you now, it's not fair for the 80 people who are not here today. So here I suggest the prelim, we use an all up rate, okay? Because you can do some work breakdown already after your prelim calculation. So normally prelim we use parametric or all up, okay? And for consultant to actually give a definitive estimates, they definitely use all up rate, because their final design are ready. Just that they do not know the word sequence, so they cannot really do the proper calculation on the resources allocation to do a final costing. So they need to use all up. All up means that the activity, what kind of quantity, and that quantity you direct with an all up rate. Okay? So example, bar bending, you are doing 50 tons of bar. So that rate is the bar itself times by the labor to do 1 ton, times by the machinery to do 1 ton, times by wastage, times by supervision, for example, is all in that one rate. Okay, then you times it by that 50 tons, like that. Okay? Any other questions? So that is the expectation of what I will be seeing in the report, okay? I think later on in prelim side, I think after week 8, probably around week, I'm not sure the schedule, but maybe around week 10 or week 11, I will be doing another session with everybody. That one is another Q&A session to troubleshoot. Should be week 10 normally. Yeah, week 10 usually project management. I need to ask Dr. Razak. He will be able to give me a more detailed schedule. So that one is Q&A. So that means at that time, if you already have some work that you have done already, you can ask me or show me actually. Okay, email me and we can discuss over the Q&A sessions. Today is mainly for my mentor-mentee, but then I know other also join in to ask about the expectation of the report and all that. Yeah, so it's okay. Yeah, so this recording, maybe I will put it up. I will also send it to Dr. Razak to put up in his IDP punya group. I don't know, but I'll also put it up in project management. Our ellipse in project management, okay? So I strongly recommend you to go and read, to listen to all the recordings, especially if you're missing classes. Otherwise, you're going to be in a very bad situation, you know, because you're not attending classes, you're not listening to recording, you're just completely blank, you know. How's your assignment coming along? Okay, so that is next Monday hand in, huh? And next Thursday we have a test. I will put up the link with your name and your group and name and your Webex link in one file to be sent to you maybe by Monday. Okay.
Okay.
So Tuesday we will, yes.
About the December.
Yes, I'm answering.
Since we are making short videos, a certain floor, and what about this think in the structural work or somewhere else? And after every finish, we just
Your final design, you need staircase there. That is part of structural work.
I'm not very sure. That's why I'm asking.
Staircase is a very important part of structural work. It's always the hardest to design in structure, you know. So structure, if in your work breakdown also you have to put staircase, you know, you have to. That is as important as any beam and column. It's part of the structural work. Of course, it's part of the structural work. So you need what?
So we include it in every floor, right?
How many floors do you have? Shop block, you have 3 floors, right?
Yes.
3 floors, you need 2 rows of staircase, kan? Ground to first to second, Yeah, you need to put that in the work breakdown. You need to do that in the calculation. You need to calculate that. You need to put that in the cost as well. Yes, everything. And houses one, you only have 1 floor. Yours is single story or double story?
Mine is.
Your residential is single story, is double story? Huh?
Single
story,
story.
then no staircase lah.
Yes. Housing, but house.
Okay. Staircase have to
Thank you.
All right. So I think that's it. Anything else you want to ask, just email me, okay? Just email me before Tuesday. I mean, like, you can email me and I'll try to answer that in your classes, because most of the questions that you are asking are the same question that other people are asking also. So I will usually try to answer everybody at the same time. So do not hesitate to email me. And then as long as we have online face-to-face, I will try to remember to answer your question that you email me, okay? I mean, at the moment, because of MCO, we are having online classes, so it's very hard to communicate. Otherwise, it's very easy. You guys drop by my office, I can talk to you, you know? But now it's because of MCO, yeah, I mean, because of the online thing, so we have problems, you know, so yeah. So trying to, you know, we are still also trying to find a way to communicate with each other in a more proper kind of manner, okay?